Hello? Yeah, my name is Joe Schultz. I'm with the Lewis County Farm Bureau, and we'd like to, on behalf of the Lewis County Republican Committee and Lewis County Farm Bureau, I'd like to welcome everybody here and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to attend this event. We wanted to, since we had a lot of people running in the Republican primary, we wanted the voters to get a chance to meet each candidate and give each candidate a chance to give their views on some of the topics. We have questions that we'll be reading to each candidate, and there's 2 questions in each of 4 different categories. The first one is county finances, the second one is economic development, the third one is health and human services, and the third one is the future, what's next for Lewis County. And they're pretty broad questions, so it enables the candidates to kind of use some latitude to, speak their mind on a few different topics that they have some beliefs in. So with that, we're going to have an opening statement from each candidate. We have the 8 questions, and we'll have a closing statement. We'd like to move along, and it worked really well last night in Novel with 2 districts. Tonight it's District 2 and District 4. And tonight we have Lexi Bruning from 7 News doing our moderating. She'll be asking the questions, and we have the timekeeper to kind of hold it so we don't run over time. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you to the Lewis County Farm Bureau. Sorry, guys. And thank you to the Lewis County Farm Bureau and Lewis County Republican Committee for having me tonight. And thank you to all of you who showed up and took time out of your evening, as Joe said, to come here and be informed about what's going on in your community. So, as Joe said, we will begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, kind of tell us what they're all about. There is a timekeeper, candidates, right in the front row. He has a sign that says 15 seconds on it, so if he holds up that sign, that means wrapped up. So before this, we kind of pick numbers out of a hat just to kind of make it fair, who will go first, who will go last, things like that. To my right, we have District 2 candidates, Lisa and Tom. And then to my left, we have Ian and Barry, District 4 candidates. So we'll start our opening statements tonight with Tom. You have 2 minutes, so start whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. My name's Tom Kalamas. A little about me. I've been married to my wife, Jane, for 44 years. We have 2 children, Rebecca and Matthew, and a grandson, Alexander. Our son, Matthew, was killed in a car accident in 2004. I'm a 65-year native of Krogan, grew up in the village, and now we live outside the village. I worked on a lot of dairy farms and then went to Kraft Foods, started as an hourly employee, was in a lot of leadership roles, processing supervisor, continuous improvement manager, business development manager. I have a black belt in 6 Sigma methodology. I retired from Kraft in 2013 after 35 years. I did a lot of consulting for Kraft, Tulare, California, Walton, New York, and also for California Dairy out there. I'm an active member in our church at St. Stephen's. I volunteer for the Office of the Aging. I've been a 4-year member, volunteer member of the Lewis County Sustainable Farming Committee. Why am I running? 2019, I was encouraged by my older brother to run for the town board of Krogan, which I did. And a year into that, I was encouraged by a friend of mine to put my hat in the legislator vacant position that was there. I did, but it was too late in the process to do anything, but here I am now. And I have a strong commitment to public service, a proven track record for working tirelessly for the people around me. I'd like to use my skills and experience to make a positive impact and be fiscally responsible and transparent.
Thank you, Tom.
for making tonight happen. I have been a Lewis County legislator for 3 years. I am also the chair of the Health and Human Services. Lewis County, born and raised. I graduated right up here in 2005. I moved away for about 10 years to go to college and to also be a travel nurse. I have now been a registered nurse for nearly 15 years, and I'm currently a nursing supervisor at Samaritan Medical Center in Watertown. My husband Alex and I decided to move back to the area for many reasons. One of them was to buy my childhood home, which we live in. It's right here in Beaver Falls, right on the Beaver River. We also knew that we wanted to start a family here. Leland is 5 and Penelope is 2. And we also knew that this is where we would want to grow a business. My motivation for wanting to be a legislator is very similar to the reasons why I wanted to be a nurse. To help people and to make a difference. I had a wonderful experience growing up here. A wonderful school district, best in the county. Very tight-knit community. A safe and comfortable place to have a childhood. I want that for my children and for many future generations. I bring a fresh look and a unique perspective to the solutions that we have and also the solutions to move us forward while keeping Lewis County the home that we love. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm very excited.
Thank you, Lisa.
I hope you don't mind if I stand. I'm used to standing when I talk. But thank you very much to Lexi, to the Farm Bureau, to the Republican Party here in Lewis County for hosting this, and then to Channel 7 and Linking Lewis County for making this available for folks who weren't able to be here tonight. As you know, my name is Ian Gilbert. I have been privileged these last 3 years to serve as the legislator for District 4, encompassing the town of New Bremen and soon to be parts of the town of Loudville. A little bit of background, I'm the one transplant up here. I actually didn't grow up in Lewis County. I grew up in Jefferson County, the next county over. I moved to Lewis County for the same reason that many other people do, which is that this is a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to put down roots, to own a business, and to pass on our values to the next generation. So I have a Bachelor of Arts in History and Political Science from Queen's University and my law degree from Penn State University. I worked for about 6 years as an attorney with the Convoy Law Firm in Watertown, where I specialize in small business law, real estate, property transactions, and municipal law. For the last couple of years, I've been self-employed. I have my own law practice, which I started myself, and I work out of my home and out of a small office in Loudville as well. My interest in the Republican Party and in conservative politics began when I was a child. I actually grew up in a home of Democrats, and my mother was a Canadian, but I registered as a Republican when I was 18 years old. I believe fundamentally, government is a shared project to preserve our rights, and our rights come to us not by man, not by the government, but by God. Fundamentally, I think that's the most important role for government. And I believe that in that capacity, we need to understand that government is often defined by the things that it doesn't do or that it isn't meant to do. And that ultimately, a strong community is built on strong families, strong churches, and strong community bonds. And I've tried to be a voice for conservative values on that board. I'm very thankful for the privilege to have served, and I would ask again for the privilege to serve for another term.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barry Lyndaker. I grew up here in Beaver Falls. I was born in Lewis County. My parents were Howard and Lillian Lyndaker. I grew up working for my father in the woods, and then moved on after graduation from Beaver River. After he quit the woods, I went working on the road for a company called 77 Environmental, where I started off as an operator, crane operator. Ended up being a superintendent running multi-million-dollar jobs. I always loved returning to Lewis County. I worked there for 15 years, but when I met my wife, Lynn Stacy, I decided that was enough, and I came back to Lewis County. I'm asked a lot why I'm running, because I am not a politician. And a lot of it has to do with the rails or trails. When I was told that 85% of the people in Lewis County wanted that, and I sent out a poll to 579 people, I received back 250. 75% of the people were against it. So I don't think we have always been told the truth. And in that poll, I also asked what they thought of the current county legislatures. They have a 25% approval rating. And to me, that said I had to learn, and I had to try to do something.
Thank you all for those opening statements. We're now going to go on to the question portion of the forum. The first category is county finances, and I'll ask the first question, and you each will answer this. So it's not, you guys are going to get different questions from you guys. All of you will go one after another. So the first question is, in county finances, budgeting for the county and all its diverse financial responsibilities is a large part of the role as a legislator. Explain your stance on balancing the need to maintain and improve services and programs while remaining responsible to the taxpayers. And I believe Barry will go first.
Because I'm not a current county legislator, it's very hard to get information on this. I'm sure there's places that we can improve services, but I'm also sure there's places we can make cuts to save us money, save us tax money. But I don't have all the information, so it's really hard to make an informed decision. But if I'm elected, I would try to be responsible to the taxpayers in the fact that take a look at these services, see if we need them, see if they need to be improved, or see if they need to be cut. Thanks.
Sorry, you have 2 minutes to answer the questions. And again, we have our timekeeper in the front row. So.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm going to give you some numbers. So Ronald Reagan used to believe that you can just give the voters the numbers and let them reach their own conclusions because people are intelligent enough to draw sort of their own conclusions from it. Right now, in 2023, the federal government is projected to have a $1.4 trillion deficit. To put that in perspective, our debt to GDP ratio is at its highest level since the Second World War, and there was a lot going on in the Second World War. New York State, in the last 3 years, has seen a 30% increase in its expenditures, and that's despite losing 2% of its population. As of right now, in our most recent budget forecast, and this was just released recently, along with our audit, Lewis County is actually looking at a $3.3 million surplus. So this is money we did not expect because we budget things conservatively. This is unanticipated revenue that the county's brought in, and we've managed to do it, and I'm very proud of this fact, while maintaining the same average property tax rate and sales tax rate over the last 10 years. For me, fiscal responsibility, it isn't just about statements, it's actually about numbers, and it's about morals as well. Because ultimately, every dollar that we spend at the government level, we need to ask ourselves, is this a dollar that's best spent by us or best spent on the taxpayers? Because no prosperous economy, no community can be built on government action. It has to be built on what's going on with individual businesses, with farms, with families. You know, I mentioned my wife is here, we've got 5 kids. I own a small business. I understand the burden of going to, Aldi or going to Walmart and seeing your bill go up because of inflation. I understand the impact of rising costs of insurance, education, if you're thinking about sending your kids to school. I understand those things. I try to bring the same principles that we have to household finances to the finances at the county level. I'm very proud of the achievements that we've had.
If you need the question asked again, or you got it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thanks, Alex. Yeah. The county has not raised taxes in the last 5 years at least, and that's thanks to, well, we have many reasons to be thankful here in Lewis County, but one of them is we have kind of 2 sets of money. One of them is to maintain the county services, and the other one comes in from, a lot of it is the pilots that we have. So we are able here in Lewis County to do something that not a lot of other counties, especially smaller counties, are able to do. and that is take a look at our extra revenue without putting it in a risky situation that could affect our services. And we are able to go out, expand programs, take a risk, and that is what we continue to do. The county also has policies that the board sets, as well as practices of being very budget conscious. We do not, the largest budget item is personnel, as it should be, where people are what matters most. The board continually does not add personnel between the budgets, and that is something that helps cut down on those personnel costs. It is those sorts of policies and practices that keep the tax rate down and keep us responsible to the taxpayers, while having that other pot of money to go out and improve Lewis County to draw people more here to the county.
As far as the budget, I'm very strong on fiscal prudence, transparency, and prioritizing different things within the budget, making responsible financial decisions, ensuring the budget's well managed, carefully reviewing expenditures. An example of the transparency, this year in the town of Croghan, I started January working with our highway superintendent and the board to look at 4 budget items that are going to be increasing and getting to the root cause of why. And he is transmitting that information down to the employees. I'm transmitting it to the board and whoever's there. So it's really about change management. If something's going to increase, you can't just do it right off. You educate and transmit that information so people have an understanding instead of a lot of numbers. The budget's available for anybody to look at, but it takes a little bit for people to understand it. So really, my stance on it is transparency, fiscal prudence, and prioritizing the budget of what's needed.
Great. And you can hang on to that microphone, Tom, because we're going to come right back this way. All right, and the second question under county finances. What do you see are the opportunities for the county to find ways for more revenue without increasing taxes?
More revenue. Economic development. Right now, Kraft Foods and Marvel and the dairy farmers, they're both big economic engines in the county. If we're looking for more revenue as far as industry, I would highly support stuff that will actually support and allow that to grow, allow the farmers to grow. That could be a powdering plant to dry and make milk shelf stable. There's a vacant lot down at Tops Plaza. You could recruit a good hotel there with a conference center that would draw in people from the snow sled industry to a lot of business people who come to Kraft, come to Omni Filter for a place to stay. Right now, most of them all stay in Watertown. Support of small businesses. I think you got to remove some of the economic hurdles, restrictions, and regulations, and have a way to allow small businesses to start up and guide them through budgeting processes, grant loans, and things like that. So I think things like that could bring stability and economic stability, and kind of looking at the long-term goal within the county.
Thank you. So stabilizing the taxes is a lot about stabilizing the population, and that's multifaceted of how you get people to move here and stay here. But it is also, as Tom said, economic development and bringing more businesses in here, specifically tourist business, so that people can come here, recreate here, spend their money here, and add to the taxes. Another way that the county is looking to increase revenue without increasing taxes. Investments, the county does a lot about investments. I will admit that numbers at the beginning of this was not my strong suit. I'm the Health and Human Services, but the county regularly presents and brings in outside consultants to tell us about ways that our money can go further. And the county is doing just that. We have money in the bank that's earning interest every single day. So smart financial management, which comes down to, again, our personnel. What matters most is having the right people in the right position. Thank you.
So Tom and Lisa hit the nail on the head. The key to increasing revenue in a county like ours is not raising taxes. It's seeking out private investment and making Lewis County a more viable place for businesses, for individuals to come in and actually make investments, put down roots. Our economy in Lewis County is built on 4 pillars. First is agriculture, and that includes things like value-added downstream production as well. Second is manufacturing. We're still actually one of the leading counties in terms of manufacturing as a percentage of our total economic activity. Third thing is recreation. We are New York State's backdoor. There's a lot of great recreation potential and untapped potential there. And then fourth, I would say, is professional services, and within that I would include things like education and healthcare. I think that it's important that we understand and remember that dairy is by far the most important driver of the economy in Lewis County. And then, but along with those things, we shouldn't put all of our eggs in one basket. We need to be able to diversify. We need to have a creative approach. One thing I think is a real untapped potential. Since COVID, there's been a trend with remote workers, white-collar professionals, actually moving off-site, working off-site, having offices out of their homes. I'm a testament to that. So many jobs today can be done remotely. They don't actually have to be done at an office. And when we can tell somebody, why would you work in Onondaga County when you can do the same job on your computer out of a home office at 1/3 the cost of living, lower taxes, better schools, better communities, better everything. And there are actually people who see that. That's something that's on my mind a lot is, what are we doing as a community to try to tap into the economic potential? But to the question, absolutely, private investment is what's going to drive our economic success.
Everyone's pretty much hit on the farming. We need another product for our mill. Craft. If we just depend on them, if something happens, our farms are in trouble. But also, we have a big timber industry here, and that's took a big hit in the last 10 years. I mean, we've lost one mill after another. There's a lot of products that we could transport out of here if we had railroads for cheaper transport. Trucks are just too expensive, and that would end up helping farmers to transport their crops out of here. We really need, there's a lot of people buying property here from out of town, and that's raising our property values. Do we tax them more because they don't contribute to the community? I mean, they don't buy chicken from a benefit or something. Do they get taxed more? Because they are raising our property taxes. And one other thing is, Old Forge, they charge to use their trails, their snowmobile trails. We don't. We could do that too, and they would have no problem. When I worked in Chicago, I worked with the divers out there, and they knew as soon as I said I was from Tug Hill, they knew. They came in here for 2 weeks a year, didn't matter the cost. They were gonna ride sleds, and they would have paid $100 each, not a problem. And how much would that raise? And have we ever looked into it?
Thank you, guys, and that wraps up our county finances. Now we'll go on to questions about economic development. First question is, what is your role as a legislator to bring economic stability to the county? And now we'll start with Barry.
I think we need to work with the community, work with the people in it to bring in new businesses. We need to start using our natural resources here, and I mean, the legislatures, we shouldn't control it. We should have People in the community run the businesses. We can't, if a milk plant started, legislatures can help with money, they can help with financing, but they should not run it. It should be the farmers. Same with the logging industry. But in the end, I think we need to cut back on the spending.
Again, Barry did a very good job answering that. He's right. Ultimately, it's not the role of government to try to guide and direct the economy. That's up to private entrepreneurs, small business owners, long-time family businesses, and big businesses as well. And I think that, New York State right now is one of the worst states for doing business. And yet within that, as a board and as a community, I think that we found some creative ways to try to make Lewis County competitive. And I go back to one of my previous answers, which is to make sure that we're an environment that is competitive for a whole bunch of different fields. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. There is potential in Lewis County for manufacturing, for professional services, for, like I said, remote workers who are looking to come in. I would say, and this dovetails with the last question, there are a lot of seasonal properties in Lewis County, but this is going to matter in terms of our taxes, because the more properties there are, the more development that there is going on, the less we can actually impose a tax burden on the people that are still here. So development is very important, and I think Lewis County, and along with that, another thing that we've done is try to advertise the county, market the county. We've redone our county image. We actually hired some people to come in and help us improve the county's image. I think naturally Lewis and the Chamber are very important partners in that. We've had very good partnerships with them.
Brittany Davis from Naturally Lewis came and presented to the board about a number of buildings that needed repair. In that same meeting, there was presented the housing, how there is a large need for more affordable housing. And afterwards I said to Brittany, we have these two problems and it seems like there should be an easy solution to, connect these. And Brittany said, it's not the county's job to buy these properties and fix them up. It's the county's job to make the right environment for somebody to come in and do that. And that is exactly what Naturally Lewis has done. And the board has been very supportive of Naturally Lewis and economic development, regularly increasing the budget. So for me, to bring economic stability, it's not to go out and do all these projects, but to make the right environment, put the right people there, put the right pilots and the tax incentives and the experts, so that when people want to bring a business here, if they're looking to bring a business anywhere, Lewis County is the right choice for them because we make it that easy for them.
As far as economic development, I would definitely advocate to make it business friendly to get it started. The infrastructure, if we want to recruit or help industry come in here, we've got to have water, sewer. That's going to be a high priority. Dairy plants use a lot of water, paper mills use a lot of water. So the infrastructure has to be there to support that. Creation of job development and workforce development, training, having some of these industries partner up with kids coming out of college, coming out of high school to actually do internships. Right now, I believe BOCE's got some internships out of their food prep program that work at some of the local restaurants. That kind of hooks them into staying in this area. We've had a lot of expansion of broadband coverage all around that benefits the economic stability. All of this really needs to measure and kind of line up with the goals of the county in the future, in long term, not just kind of a flash in the pan, so to speak. You always got to be looking ahead 5 years, 10 years, and how does these things fit in to these situations.
Next question in economic development. What can the Board of Legislators do to enhance the economic viability for small businesses and not-for-profit institutions and companies? We'll start with you again, Tom.
We're doing kind of like a boomerang kind of thing.
Again, business friendly, streamlining regulations, reducing or eliminating all the bureaucratic barriers that simplify the licensing. Have them access to capital, to funding, to grants. A lot of businesses may not know that's out there. I would encourage networking of small businesses. Some of the best ideas come when small businesses get together and kind of brainstorm ideas. Utilizing the economy of scale. Can things be ordered for 10 places instead of each individual business ordering their own stuff? Can they get a break on that? That's it.
It's the job of the board to make the environment and put the right people in the right places with the right tools. So that is what the board has done with Naturally Lewis. My husband recently started a small business, and the IDA was a one-stop shop to say, these are the resources you need. You need to go here, you need to talk to this person, and it was very seamless. The board understands economic development and is very supportive of this. Also, as Tom touched on, broadband is crucial, and that is why Lewis County Board invested a lot of our own money, as well as leverage that money for grants to expand broadband services. By the end of the summer, Lewis County will have reduced unserved households by 71%. That is huge. Everybody in the state is trying to get these grants as well as the workers to come and set up broadband. But Lewis County was able to get it in the beginning before other counties, and we are ahead of the game by far. And that is because we prioritize economic development, bringing people in, making this the best environment possible.
Well, Lisa stole my answer, but no, the broadband is the key aspect there. And for rural communities in New York State, the reality is that the lack of broadband has been hindering our development for years now. And it's true, I served on the broadband ad hoc committee. And you know, this makes me think back to one of the first jobs, well, the first job I ever had in Lewis County was as a summer camp counselor. The second job I ever had was doing cabinetry. And the guy who hired me, he said, Ian, I don't care how much you know, because I was clueless when I came into it. I want to know that you're teachable. When I got on the broadband ad hoc committee, I knew next to nothing about broadband, except I knew that I needed it in order to be able to do my job. I tried to learn, I tried to be curious and figure out what needed to be done. We had experts who came in who showed us what kind of grants were available and also the statistics, the number of unserved households. And we have been able to invest hundreds of thousands of local and state and federal money into a broadband program. There's nothing else like it in the North Country. And it's very important with key utilities like broadband that you be first for that sort of thing, because that makes you a viable market. It makes you a place that outside investors will be interested in. And that is some work that I'm very proud of that we've been able to accomplish.
It's funny this came up because last night I had a conversation with my son who works for the USDA, and one of his things was if we had good internet, he could work remotely from Lewis County. Right now, he goes into the office 1 day a week, so that's why he's in Washington, D.C. right now. But we need to get it better. We live on the East Road. There's 22 houses, we don't have internet. I've called, don't know why. But we also need to work on our infrastructure, sewer, water, and we need to help small businesses with the paperwork. I mean, I own a small business, I know what it's like. It gets hard. Funding, I'm not so much for grants. Grants make an unlevel playing field. One business is built from the ground up with the person's own money, another place gets $1 million grant. That's not fair. And most of the places I've seen built with grants usually don't survive over 2-3 years. I mean, and then they're gone. So that to me is a slippery slope, and I would have to look at each each one individual. I think grants should be for the best of the community, not the individuals.
And on to Health and Human Services. The first question, as a legislator, are you willing to provide subsidies to Lewis County General Hospital for medical services which cannot pay for themselves, such as maternity? And we'll start with you.
I really don't like the word subsidies. Usually it becomes full-time. I think we can make them pay for themselves. I am willing to help, but I think the hospital can pay for itself. And if I'm not wrong, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, the maternity wing was paying for itself. So can we get back there? Yes, I really hope so. We just need the personnel back, and we need to subsidize it maybe for a little while, but I think we can make it profitable again.
My answer is yes. No, I'll expand on that a little bit. So I'm curious, just a show of hands, how many people in here were either born at the hospital in Lewis County or have a child that was born at the hospital? So I'm seeing most of the hands going up. All 5 of my kids were born at the hospital. When our maternity wing shut down, I talked with the CEO of the hospital, and he said something to me which I think is true, that without a maternity wing, it does not feel like a true hospital. And that's been something that's been expressed by the workers that are there as well and by people in the community. Maternity wings in general do not generate revenues for hospitals. To use a financial term, they're a loss leader. Okay, so they're something that serves the community, that puts the name of the business out there. We have a county-owned hospital. It's a very rare sort of institution. Absolutely, yes, I'm on board with committing county resources to making sure we have a maternity unit back in the hospital. My reason isn't just for sentimental reasons. The reality is that the 12-minute drive that it takes for you to get to Carthage, or heaven forbid, half an hour to get to Samaritan, could mean the difference between saving a baby's life or saving a mother's life. So yes, it is about good economics, it's about what's best for the hospital, but it's also about the personal impact.
I think that there is definitely a role for the county to subsidize the hospital for services that a small community hospital would not otherwise be able to support on its own, just because of the lack of number of people. Whether that be a maternity department, bringing dermatology back, a mental health clinic, recruiting a surgeon, which they did just recruit a surgeon, Dr. Zaris coming home, I guess, or bolstering the primary care services at Lewis County Hospital so that there is less turnover. The Board of Legislators does continue to financially support the hospital every year through intergovernmental transfer, approximately $5 million every year that the board gladly supports the hospital. The hospital is a major industry, but it is also something that we love about living here, is that we have this hospital. And as somebody who used to work there and cannot, as I'm a county legislator now, no other hospital feels like Lewis County Hospital. It's home, absolutely through and through. The expansion project at the hospital would have also not have been possible without the county's assistance. And that is huge. That is going to bring in more doctors, more surgeons, and bolster the revenue of the hospital as well. And the board has continued to support the hospital and will in any way that it can and is viable.
As far as the subsidies, I would say yes, but I would like to have it assessed for long. The goal would be to how they can sustain themselves without it. That I think should be the hospital's goal. We could subsidize them, but they need to be able to slowly grow out of that, and so where it isn't a constant $20 million this year, $30 million next year, $50 million the following year. And that would be a goal for the hospital itself. And as far as, I think one of the big benefits is the people that are born in the hospital are probably going to stay, and they're probably going to move some of their health care. If you're born in Samaritan or in Carthage, you're probably going to gravitate to have a lot of your health care done there. If you were born in Lewis County, you're going to probably gravitate back to the Lewis County Hospital for health care. Knee replacements for all you older people, hip replacements. That's it.
All right, and for our second Health and Human Services question, what do you see as your role as a legislator to help those agencies who provide needed services to individuals and families facing homelessness?
I think first I would like to understand the total issue. Is it shelter? Is it a roof over their head? Is it food? And really how many? We don't want to create an environment where you're growing homelessness. I mean, you can make a nice facility that really attracts it from all over. That's really not helping. I'd rather see us get to the root cause, partnership with a lot of the local churches and community. I would support some of the places right now that homeless are staying. I know Snowbelt Housing has apartments all over the place, but I think we need to get to the root cause because really nobody should be homeless. And with that being said, there's a lot of people out there living today that you went to their house, you could probably, and they have a roof over their head, but they're really homeless. You know, they're lonely, nobody visits them. That can be just as detrimental as somebody living off the street.
Tom, I like what you said about understanding the issue. Years ago, I went to a talk about homelessness by Father Ed Murphy at Bark Eaters, so it was years ago. And I thought, homelessness in Lewis County, what could this possibly be? And I was shocked after listening to him. Homelessness in Lewis County looks a lot different. It's not people living on the streets, though sometimes at the fairgrounds there is people living outside. But a family living with one family member this month, another family member that month. It is children who don't have a stable living environment. It's hard to imagine, but there are children in Lewis County tonight who are sleeping on a neighbor or a family member's couch, and they're going to bed hungry. In a county like this, it's hard to imagine, but it does happen, and we do need to understand the whole issue. To that, I went to a couple of Bridges Out of Poverty training, and I'm sure some of you in here have been to the trainings as well. And that is getting to the bottom of what is poverty, how do people get homeless, and also how do we raise them up out of it. So working with our partners so that we can get people back on their feet. New York State has told us this is a county's problem. This is ours to take care of. So at the end of the day, we want to do what's best for the individual. We want people to go to bed safe with a full belly. But we also have to be responsible for taxpayers. So how can we do this fiscally responsible, but also to take care of our neighbors, because that is something that we're passionate about as well.
So I think one thing that's really important to understand is because of certain requirements that exist under state law, Lewis County already is paying a substantial amount of money for homeless people. Anytime the temperature drops below a certain degree, we're legally required to put them up either in hotel rooms or apartments, which is a significant cost for the taxpayers. But realistically, homelessness, it isn't just an issue about money. I think homelessness fundamentally, it ties very closely, of course, to mental health issues. It ties very closely to drug issues. And it really is problems of the heart. And I think that there are certain things, I don't think it's as bad in Lewis County as it is in other places, but there's a deep sense of brokenness, I think, in the country right now. When we read about the number of people who are coming out of broken families or don't have a father and a mother at home, it's no wonder when we hear that they're coming into their adult years without the tools that they need in order to succeed. And within that, I think really, to the extent that we address homelessness, number one, I'm very glad that we have organizations like Snowbelt in Lewis County who are experts on this issue. I've had many discussions with Jalen, the executive director, and philosophically, I think they approach it from the right angle. They do not view homelessness as a long-term lifestyle choice. To them, homelessness is something that you must transition out of. And that requires certain resources, requires help, mental health services, those types of things. But at the end of the day, it is also about personal choices. And I think to the extent that the county can be involved in helping people get to that point, and maybe for the homeless person, they might not necessarily go off to be a doctor or a politician or make the big bucks. Maybe for somebody who's homeless, simply being able to overcome their addiction, to go to their meetings, to work a stable job, have a roof over their head, for them that might be success, and that's something to be very proud of, but it's something that we should continue to support.
I think first we need a number on the homeless in this county. I've talked to several law enforcement officers, and 3 of them have told me that there's 2. I mean, but how do you define it? Is it that you're staying on a relative's, couch in your living room? I mean, the Nazarene Church, they had one person use their shelter during the winter time. But in the end, I think we need to help them become a productive member of society. I mean, there are jobs, we can help them, we can train them. If we need programs to train them to work, But we really need to see how many. I mean, I'm used to being in Chicago, LA. I mean, there was homeless everywhere. So a lot of it is drugs, and we need to help them get off drugs. We need to help them find a job.
Thank you. And our 4th and final category for questions is the future. What's next? So our first question, we'll start with Barry. What does Lewis County's future look like?
I think we need to bring in more businesses. I think Lewis County will do okay if we do. We need to be careful about what we spend and how we spend. We need to watch what's coming out of Albany and the mandates that they would make us, do. But in the end, Lewis County is a great place to live, and I think it will remain a great place to live if we can just get more industry here.
So certainly economic development is an important part of it, but the future of Lewis County really is going to depend on families. It's going to depend on individuals. I don't think that you can build any type of growing society, any type of society with a future if you don't focus your efforts on the next generation. Everything that's guided my decisions as a legislator has been thinking, what kind of impact is this going to have 30 years down the road? When I'm looking at retirement, what kind of things for my kids who at that point will be grown up, and hopefully I'll have a lot of grandkids, what are they going to look at the decisions we made now that would make them then want to put down their roots in Lewis County and build the next generation and build toward the future? Lewis County has an aging population. That's just the demographic reality of it. What are we doing right now as a community to think seriously about the challenges that are going to come along with that? We have schools that have shrinking classes just because people are moving out of the area. Are we focused on high school and college graduates and trying to entice them back into the community? Those are the things that I think about a lot. But I will say fundamentally the question, what is the future of Lewis County? That's not up to me as a legislator. That's up to all of you. That's up to people in the community being involved, whether it be through your church, through social organizations, with your families, investing not just your money, but your time and your efforts. What are you doing as a community to make this place a great place to live? A place that I decided to move here when I was a young adult.
I think that the future of Lewis County will hopefully look like what it has looked like for generations. And I hope it continues to look like that. There is a reason that we are here. There is a reason that we chose to live here, to raise our children here, and it is because it is a safe and comfortable place. However, without change, we will continue to lose population, which will drive down industry even more population decline. The county needs to adapt to be sustainable, but we need to do that in a way that makes sense for Lewis County. We don't need to do anything radical. We are very fortunate in Lewis County that because we're smaller, small changes can make a huge impact. Small programs can make a huge impact. And so I think it's having the right people in the right place to every day show up and keep doing what they love, what they're good at, to move us forward, to get more people to stay here, move here, bring industry in. And I really do genuinely hope that it continues to look like it has.
I think we do as we look for the future, we do need a sustainable environment. We've got a great environment around this area. We don't want any, I don't think, nuclear plants on Black River that would jeopardize this stuff. But I concur with what Ian said. This county is really made up of solid communities. If there was a death or an illness around here, the community would rally around and they would raise thousands of dollars, and that all comes from you and I and everybody else to support that family. And I think that's one of the biggest keys. We want a stronger county looking forward. I think a lot of the focus is really focusing on strengthening the families.
And last but not least, our final question. As a legislator, how are you going to address the state mandates regarding the conversion to green or renewable energy and the added cost to taxpayers? Tom, this was you.
Thank you. I'm a fan of renewable energy. I'm not a fan of all the solar that's going on. Not so much the solar itself, but the location. I'd much rather see, in Germany, the villages and stuff like that, they lease out their roofs for solar companies. I'd much rather see solar companies like in Lavaux. You've got a lot of big barns, Demco, Marks Farms. I'd rather see these solar companies be kind of forced to get their solar panels up off agricultural land and get them on rooftops and just do a net metering system, or a lot of them are going to battery storage. We can do a lot of the schools, businesses have already converted to a lot of LED technology to save money in the renewable piece. We got a lot of pilot money that comes into all these high schools. Some of it comes to the local municipality. I don't think we can lean on that as part of your everyday budget, because that could go away in a year, 2 years, whatever. It's there to use, but it's got to be used diligently. And I think we can communicate with our state representatives on some of these impacts that it can have on our communities, like consuming really good agricultural land. I think we can use them to push back on some of these regulations to tighten them up.
There will always be state mandates. New York State, Lewis County is a very small county in New York State. We are not at the top of the priority list. But Lewis County, we cannot make the rules and we cannot always change the rules. But what we are able to do is to figure out ways that work for Lewis County. Lewis County solutions to these Lewis County problems. The mandates will be there, but we have the right people there helping us to figure out how we can make those mandates, how we can fit into them, and how we can make it work for us. I represented the board at the number 3 wind farm opening. That's going to bring $40 million revenue. When I was doing my remarks, I remarked that they are cutting out the small counties where these solar and wind projects are happening. And that is eroding our trust and partnership. Afterwards, that led to a conversation with 3 state representatives. And they had a better understanding at the end of our conversation. So it is going to these things and being vocal, not letting them forget about us. Also, When my great-grandfather started Porterdale Farm nearly 100 years ago, he was a grain farmer. Not that that was a thing back then, but because that was what was sustainable. Same thing for Lewis County. We love the environment here. We love the clean air in our rivers, in our forest. We want to maintain that. And if green energy is part of that solution for 100 years, 200 years down the road, then it is something to consider.
So broadly speaking, it's very important that we maintain a good relationship with our Albany representatives. You know, sometimes it feels like David and Goliath when we're up against Albany, and it feels like we're not being listened to. But in my time as a legislator, I forged a very strong working relationship with Mark Walczyk and with Assemblyman Blankenbush. And this is an issue that they understand. Both before and since I became a member of the Board of Legislators, I've been directly involved in municipalities, some of whom are clients, in drafting solar laws and wind laws that regulate the use of solar and wind facilities in Lewis County properties and in Jefferson County as well. And then I was also one of the movers in the drafting and adopting a model solar law for the entire county. The reality is, though, right now, changes that are coming in from New York State, and it's getting worse every year, they are actually creating regulations that allow for wind and solar companies to apply to have those rules thrown out the window. So local authority over how land is being used is no longer there, and it's a real shame what's happening. But I think that's where it's important that as a county, we join up with our neighboring counties and continue to try to be a voice. I'm not opposed to renewable energy. I do think that there's a right way to do it, and there's definitely a wrong way to do it. We need to think about long-term property impacts. We need to think about the long-term impacts on taxes. We need to think about decommissioning. We need to think about public safety, and of course the view shed. What kind of impacts, visual impacts, does it have when you've got 20 acres of solar farms next to a road where there used to be a beautiful dairy farm? Those are all things that we need to consider. I wish I had a better answer for you, but the reality is, like I said, it feels like David and Goliath sometimes going up against Albany on this issue.
We're definitely going green. Albany wants it, and they will get it. But I don't agree with putting solar panels on farmland. We need farmland too. So we need to make them realize that. The one thing up here in the North Country, a lot of our power is already from green sources. And it's not going to be as easy for us to convert as, say, Albany. We're spread out, our infrastructure's older. We're going to need to work on the power lines a lot before anything happens. People's homes are going to have to be converted. There's a lot of homes with only a 100 amp panel. You're not going to charge a car on that and run your house. So we're going to have to help people convert their houses with tax incentives or something. I don't know. But it's going to be hard to make the switch, and I think a big part of that, we could use the railroads. I mean, electric trucks are not going to be the answer for moving goods in and out. So we might want to look into that, into saving the railroad and redoing the line if we're going to own it.
And with that, the questions are complete, but we still have our closing statements. You guys will have a little bit longer, 3 minutes, to give your closing statements. Since we started over here with Tom, we're going to start over here this time with Barry. So 3 minutes, you can start whenever you're ready.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I really appreciate the time. And I had a letter sent to me in the poll that I sent out, and it talked about being a chair, just a chair, being told how to vote, yes or no, and when to vote, yes or no. And all I can say is, if that is going on, I won't do it. Nobody will tell me how to vote except for District 4 voters. I would really like to hold meetings twice a year, if I can, at the New Bremen Town Barn. I haven't talked to them yet about it, but I think we need to stay in touch with the voters. We need transparency. We need to know what they're thinking and what they want. And I think we're getting away from that. This letter really hit home for me. I don't know who wrote it, but it definitely summed up when I was collecting signatures. People are angry. They don't know what's going on and they want to know the truth.
So there's one person I forgot to thank when I came here, and I want to extend my gratitude to Mr. Lyndaker, not just for coming here tonight, but also for his willingness to step forward. Campaigns take a lot of effort and a lot of work, and anybody who's willing to put their name forward and subject himself, I think, to public scrutiny should be commended. So, Barry, thank you very much for doing this and for taking the time and for your care for the community. As a member of this board, like I said, I've been on it for 3 years. I'm the first person from my generation to come on the board. We've been through a lot. 2019, when I was elected, it feels like ancient history. We've had some challenging years and we've had some good years. We're in some good years right now, but that doesn't mean that 20, 30 years down the road, things are going to be the same. Every policy that I've done, as I've said, has been looking toward the next generation. What impact is this going to have on my kids? What impact will this have on my neighbors' kids? What are we doing to really put them first? I'm not going to use my full 3 minutes, but I want to leave you all with a quote. It's from one of my favorite authors. His name is G.K. Chesterton. He was a 19th century Christian philosopher, and he has this really great line where he said that, and he was talking about ancient Rome, and he said that men didn't love Rome because Rome was great, but Rome was great because men loved her. The reality is, for a place like Lewis County, this community will be great in spite of what we do as government leaders. As long as the people of Lewis County continue to love it, continue to want to make this their home, and continue to keep your eyes on the future, this will be a great community. And for that, I thank you all for being my neighbors, and I would ask for your vote on June 27th. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for everyone coming and everyone who's going to watch online. I genuinely hope that I get to continue with the privilege of being a legislator. 2/3 of the county budget is health and human services, and that is my chair and that is my bread and butter. I champion these causes. When department heads come to our meetings and they present on healthy food choices and preschool and early intervention, the hospital, mental health problems, I am invested in these problems and the solutions. I have the knowledge, but I also care very deeply about these issues and how they are uniquely challenging in our county. Boards are best when they have a variety of opinions and perspectives at the table. Having the perspective of somebody who has chosen to return to the community after moving away is important. The largest industry in our county is healthcare. Having the perspective of somebody who started their career in hospitals back in 2007 at a summer internship at Lewis County General Hospital. I have the perspective of a young mother. I am a wife of a small business owner. When you have many diverse voices, you can trust the board and myself to speak for all constituents and to get it right. So again, thank you. We're done a little bit early tonight, and I have a babysitter for another half an hour. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to come up to me afterwards. And also my personal cell phone and email are available online. So absolutely, please vote. Please vote for me. And thank you very much.
I'd like to again thank everybody, the Farm Bureau, WWNY, Lincoln, Lewis County, and everybody in the audience for coming out tonight. It's a privilege really to sit here, to step forward. It's the small communities that make up this county. It's not the county that makes up the small communities. And the stronger these small communities become, the better off. The legislators do need to work with the communities that elect us. Will I make mistakes? Absolutely. But I can guarantee you that I'm going to be honest, committed, and driven to the best that I can do to represent the local people and the county itself. I'd like to be, secondly, I would really like to and plan on spending time in the sheriff's department, the road crew, and I'd like to spend time with every head of the department in each head of the county. I think there's 20 of them, and to talk with and spend time with some of the employees to find out how they feel and how the heads handle their budget. You know, this is all our taxpayers' money. And I've been going to the county legislator meetings for over the last year. I mean, this is a crazy world, crazy time right now on a lot of different levels. And there's one thing that I'll leave you with is when you walk in the legislators' chambers, you're going to see "In God We Trust" and the American flag. And I would challenge all of us to focus just on them two ideas and base all the decisions around it. Thank you.
And that concludes our forum. I think that these candidates deserve a round of applause. And thank you guys as well for coming out and taking the time out of your evening. I know it's a rainy night, so probably would have been easy to stay home and watch this tomorrow, but I'm sure they appreciate your guys' support in being here. Just a few reminders. Tomorrow, the candidates for Lewis County Sheriff will be at Loudville Academy and Central School at 7 p.m. And then the last of these forums for District 3 legislator candidates will be at the Denmark Municipal Building on Monday, June 19th. And of course, one more reminder, primary day is on June 27th, and I'm sure they would appreciate you going out and voting. So get home safe, everyone, and like Lisa said, we're ending a little bit early, so if you have any questions for any of the candidates, I'm sure they wouldn't mind sticking around and answering them for you. So thank you guys again for being here, and get home safe.